Hello, fabulous friends, fans, and superstars. Welcome to your horoscope for the week of April 16, 2023. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. It is a remarkable astrological week, without a doubt. Big moves happening in the sky now, and this is a very special time. This week has a solar eclipse taking place in the sign of Aries. And it is this solar eclipse that, on the one hand, does suggest brand new beginnings that seem to come out of nowhere. That's the very nature of a new moon solar eclipse. But also, there's some sense of closure or culmination, even an ending that is part of a brand new beginning. Now, that ending is indicated because this eclipse is happening at what astrologers call 29 degrees, and that is the very last degree of the sign. And this is a point of culmination and concentration. The energy of that sign is at its peak here, and it does denote that things are preparing to shift, but just before they do, it's like we have to really appreciate the journey that we've been on and understand what we're going to carry forward and maybe what we're not. I had the chance to meet some lovely friends and fans about a week ago here in Rio de Janeiro. And the one time I didn't take any video to, show you guys, because I love talking about the people that I meet. One of the people said to me, sometimes I watch you and I think, wow, this girl really is Canadian. She goes out of her way not to offend people. And I actually took that as a compliment because of a couple of things. Yes, I am Canadian. But the other thing is that I think if you offend people, people stop listening. And that's not why I do what I do. I do what I do because I really care about bringing people together, about helping us see ourselves in each other. Years ago, many, many years ago, before I became a professional astrologer, I remember I loved the late, great Jonathan Cainer. I remember reading an interview with him, and he talked about how years earlier he'd written a horoscope where he had talked about release and letting go. And someone read that horoscope and thought that this was giving them permission to unalive themselves. And this was so devastating to Jonathan Cainer. And after that, he said he hired somebody so that the person could, and their only job was to read through each horoscope to make sure that it could not be interpreted in ways that could be used negatively. So I really took this to heart. To me, this encapsulated the responsibility that we have when we share astrology. Some very deep part of the collective unconscious may see us as astrologers as knowing more. And that is fundamentally opposed to what it is that I really believe and hope I embody, which is that we all are equal. We're exactly the same, right? We're all learning our lessons in a way that is messy, in a way that is contradictory at times. And I do think that this humbling of spiritual figures and putting spirituality in its right place, not making people closer to the divine than oneself. Well, ultimately, this is part of what we're learning as a collective with Saturn in Pisces now and over the next 3 years. And I think we are really seeing this as part of what's taking place in the news right now. But for all that, I share this because way back, January 6th, 2021, that was a big day, celestially speaking. There were a lot of forces that led up to that moment, astrologically speaking. And I saw that and I thought, wow, I don't want to say this because someone could use this as a validation for doing something violent, for doing something not good. And I think that my role could be better played not giving weight or energy to that. And so I didn't. And then, of course, we had a big moment, and some people got mad at me. That's what happened. Some people got mad at me. And I didn't want that either, right? There's this balance that I think as astrologers we have to play, especially right now with Saturn in Pisces. And so I say all this because I want to sort of preface what we're going to talk about here today, which is what was happening back in 2020 and into 2021 and how that connects to what is happening right now. And it is big. It is significant correlations we are seeing here. I'm going to invite you to take a little bit of a step back. Of course, we recently wrapped up a larger Mars retrograde season. And when we have Mars retrograde season, I mean, sometimes it's divided among two signs, sometimes it takes place entirely in one sign. The most recent Mars retrograde took place entirely in the sign of Gemini. And Mars in Gemini was about considering what we're talking about, what we're thinking about, how we're using the power of communication. And to contemplate that more deeply, to look at the energy behind what is being said and why. But Mars behaves differently depending on the sign that it's in. And it was way back in 2020 that we had a Mars retrograde season, but that took place in the sign of Aries. Now, Aries is a very different energy. It is embodied, it is passionate. When it is accessing its higher vibration, it can be pioneering and entrepreneurial and self trusting. But the thing with Mars is its nature is so instinctive that very often accessing the higher end of a given energy that it's in, well, that takes a whole lot of work and a whole lot of consciousness. And if we just go by default, then the default is impulsiveness, it is anger, it is frustration, especially a Mars retrograde in the sign of Aries. So, what we had going on as we were moving through the middle and later parts of 2020 was a lot of emotion, a lot of people getting very whipped up. We saw this in the United States of America. And then we had election day. What happened at that time was that Mars was stationed, was at the height of its power at 15 degrees, was hanging out there, standing still in the sky. And we had the election. But it wasn't until Mars officially went direct a few days later that a winner was announced. We move forward, okay? Mars leaves shadow in the first days of January. Mars steps to 29 degrees of Aries. The shadow period was 15 to 28. So we get to 29. This is a real sense of culmination of all the energies that had been building for months, and they came forward on January 6th. In the middle of last year, we had Jupiter sort of stepping in and out of the sign of Aries. But I remember thinking that Jupiter stepping into Aries will either bring us an energy of healing, which is very possible with Jupiter, absolutely, and a more uplifted outlook, or it'll bring exasperation. That's the thing with Jupiter. Jupiter expands, and it can either expand optimism and hope, or it can expand some intensity that may be there. And so, as we've had Jupiter moving through the sign of Aries, we've seen some interesting things transpire. In particular, it was back in the middle of March that we saw Jupiter moving over the station point of Mars, going back to early November of 2020. And I thought that what was taking place was really interesting. I mean, you saw a different energy, right? And it gave me a lot of hope. Crowds being true to themselves, people saying what they thought, but there was a calmness that was happening there that I thought was very encouraging. We weren't getting the kind of reports of more chaotic energy that we had seen before. And so I thought this is really hopeful in terms of the healing that could be taking place now. And it's been interesting to see these different demonstrations playing out, especially when you look at what was happening more recently in New York City. Now, if you get a chance to go to New York City, that as something you should do, especially just to meet the people of New York City. They are amazing, they are unique. There's this way in which New Yorkers talk to each other as equals, no matter how different they may be from each other. And it's actually really engaging and really beautiful as you walk through any given neighborhood. You just know that you're not alone. And I think that that's a really great thing. And they're just wonderful people, wonderful hearts. That's been my experience the many times I've been to New York City. And so in New York City recently, there were different demonstrations and things like that. But what was so fascinating to me, what I saw in terms of the footage I saw, was that you saw people talking to each other who didn't agree, who were on opposite sides of the different things that were going on, announcements of possible indictments and then indictments and things like that. And what I saw was people being vulnerable with each other, why they feel the way they do, why they passionately support or don't support the former president. And that to me was really beautiful. There was, again, a sense of calm that was almost healing. And regardless of where you stood in terms of who you like or don't like, you can really feel a sense of togetherness, a sense of connection playing out for all of these people, even those on very opposite sides and beliefs, politically speaking. Okay, so now here we are. We get to this week. On Thursday, we're going to have an eclipse. And this eclipse is taking place at 29 degrees of Aries. That is where Mars was on January 6th. This eclipse is going to activate that point. I mean, this is already a wild card, impulsive energy. You add an eclipse to the mix, and it really can be that much more unexpected events and energy that transpires. But here's the thing, Jupiter isn't too far away from this eclipse. And it is going to be over May 13 to 15 that we are going to have Jupiter at 29 degrees. And so, in some ways, whatever's happening now with this eclipse, there'll be further insight and healing that does transpire a little bit later. Consider this as well. I told you way back a month ago when we had that new moon in Aries at 0 degrees. That took place on the 21st of March. And I was telling you back then, this is the very beginning, but whatever happens now, in some way will be connected to this eclipse. And so if you look back at the rallies that were taking place, it's so fascinating to me that there is that connection, but when you look at the journey of Jupiter bringing healing to each of the degrees, there's this appreciation of calm. Now, I'm not saying that that calm wasn't always there. It's possible. As a Canadian, it looked quite chaotic, but I know that some people would say that, well, you're only seeing what the media tells you. So I respect that completely. What I'm seeing right now is very different than what I was seeing back in 2020. This eclipse has somewhat of a square to Pluto, but here's the thing, it's not a true square. What that means is by sign, these two planets are harmonious in terms of the elements that they find themselves in. So it is this eclipse that is happening in fire sign Aries. It is Pluto right now, just newly in air sign Aquarius. And when you look at elemental combinations, fire and air really support each other, right? They both kind of grow when they're in each other's presence. If you look at nature, which is what astrology is based on. And so we have that support there. And yet, when we look at it from that perspective of mathematical degrees, it is a conversation of tension. And so the way that I interpret that is that, yes, there may be a sense of some desire for things to be different, some frustration that could be there, recognizing the steps that need to be taken, the work that needs to happen. And yet we have that sense of this can get better. We can find a way to move forward, positively speaking. On the same day, on Thursday, as the sun has the eclipse and changes signs right away, is going to then very quickly entering the sign of Taurus. So happy birthday to all the Taurus out there. You are beginning your birthday month and you begin it with the sun stepping into your sign and immediately perfecting that square to Pluto. Pluto in Aquarius, a lot of people have been talking about the dark side of AI. That's been like the big phrase a lot of people have been using where it comes to Pluto and Aquarius. And we're already starting to see this. And I think it's going to be really fascinating to see how we respond to it as a collective, because I think we're going to see some of this very strongly under the light of the eclipse. And why am I saying this? Look, I'll tell you, people close to me have been. Um, having to address the dark side of AI. Just a week ago, of course, I saw a lot of the TikToks and videos that a lot of us are seeing of how people are cloning the voice of someone in your family, and then they're using that to call somebody and scamming people out of money. And just a week ago, I was telling my mom, hey, mom, there's this technology, maybe let's have our safe word so that we know everything's okay. And in the span of the last week, my aunt and my dad's friend both have experienced this related to the voice of their children. And it's been very shocking. It's been quite shocking to realize this. But there's another layer to this, of course, is that somebody needs to know your original voice in order to clone it. And my voice is out there, of course, but my cousin, her voice isn't out there. My dad's friend's son, his voice isn't really out there. He works in an office. And so it's interesting to contemplate whom it is that could have cloned these voices as well. I'm considering the fact that in many countries, like for example, in Brazil, if you want a SIM card, that SIM card is going to be in some way associated with your identification. And so, in some ways, you become responsible for that SIM card and whom it is that ends up using it. And that's actually something that we see in different countries in the world. However, other places have resisted doing that. It's been super easy to get a SIM card in other places. It'll be interesting to see how it is that we engage this energy as a collective. And really, I think that some restrictive measures are likely to come down. It is possible that the eclipse is going to bring with it a moment that is meant to stir a lot of people. And that may be part of what makes people say, okay, we got to figure out how people cannot abuse AI for criminal intent. On Friday, Mercury will go retrograde, and that's happening in the sign of Taurus as well. And so when I see that, I see this a couple of different ways. Again, technology, looking at the good, the bad, of course, with Mercury, it is when technology just becomes a part of life, the way we communicate and express ourselves, that it becomes the providence of Mercury. But when it is um, new technologies, right, that becomes the providence of Uranus. And Uranus is the modern ruler of Aquarius. So there's that correlation there. Okay, having said that, with Mercury in Taurus, I think there's going to be some sense of, well, how do we make this work financially? How is it that we're able to put safeguards into place, but still allow for commerce to happen, for people to buy and sell? But remember, we are at the very beginning. I keep stressing that to you with Pluto at 0 degrees of Aquarius. We are at the very beginning of a 20-year journey. What happens when everything feels virtual and you just don't know what's real anymore? How do we safeguard ourselves from that? And then how does that affect things in a very practical way? How does that change the way in which we earn money and spend money as well? And are we going to do that in a way that is ethical or not? So I think we're going to reach this very important moment with the eclipse, but then the flip side of that happens the following day with the retrograde that says, okay, let's take a little bit of a step back. Let's figure out how this is going to work economically speaking. But also, the thing is, with Mercury retrograde, you see holes in technologies. That's how it is right now, anyways, right? Some of these technologies, as they stand right now, there can be glitches. And I think some of those are going to start to be identified. And yet, it's just this, minuscule band aid in the context of understanding how these technologies really are going to change so much for so many people as the technologies get better. We are going to find ourselves having to confront, perhaps very quickly, with the eclipse, because that's how eclipses like to work. The sign of Aries is a sign of power and the military and athletics. And so, who has the power can change very quickly with an eclipse in the sign of Aries. But just get comfortable right now, okay? Because, and I know it's not easy to be comfortable, especially with an eclipse like this. I want to acknowledge that. But you may want to get comfortable because a little later this year, once we get into the summer, we are going to have the nodes changing signs. We're going to have the North Node move into Aries, the South Node into Libra for about a year and a half. And wherever the nodes go, so go eclipses. And so right now we've got um, that energy of the North Node in Taurus still with us, but starting to wrap things up. And that'll still be with us as we move into the summer, but then that will change. And what that means is whatever we're coming to realize about power and strength and how we use it, how we acknowledge it, how we exercise it, whether that's physically or in other ways, well, it's something all of us are going to have to pay attention to in one way or another for the coming period as well. What I love about this week for us, there's so much here. It's a powerful and meaningful astrological moment. Wow, is this not a very special time? Especially with this eclipse in your own life. I'm going to invite you to consider what was taking place on March 21st of this year. At that time, it would have been a seed, it would have been the very beginning. But now it's going to accelerate. As much as there is new opportunities, there may be closures as well. Now, I did speak about this energy at length for each sign in the monthly horoscope here on YouTube, so you may want to review that again. But for us, as part of our individual journeys and as a collective, I feel like we are in some ways owning our power and understanding how to be in that power, but with Chiron spending a long time in the sign of Aries, how to be vulnerable with that power and our emotions and our instincts and our impulses as well. In some ways, what happens now is connected to March 21st with this eclipse, but it's also unique in and of itself. It is closure and culmination hand in hand with a determination for things to be different than they have been before. And that's part of the excitement. What is it that we're going to co create together? Well, the indications so far are that we are moving towards vulnerability and genuine healing of what was, but also recognizing the potential, the positive potential of what could yet be. Well, thank you so much for watching. What do you love about this week? Let me know in the comments below. I love reading you guys, and to prove it to you, here are some of my most recent favorite comments. Thank you to everybody who likes, who comments, who subscribes, who shares, who thumbs up. All of it means so much. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you. And of course, if you want to know how all this wonderful stuff this week speaks to you in your sign, log on to NadiyaShahSuperstars.com, where you get expanded, exclusive video scopes each and every week for each and every sign for as low as just $3 a month. Would choose your membership rate. Higher tiers get you things like all access passes to Synchronicity University events, consultations with me, and so much more. All of this in the superstar space at NadiyaShahSuperstars.com. Links are in the description below. Synchronicity University presents an incredible faculty for May 2023 at synchronicityuniversity.com. Now, you've got under 2 weeks left to choose your tuition rate as low as just $5 a class. This is the time and the moment to sign up now. You can go to synchronicityuniversity.com, learn all about these programs, what they offer, what they entail, all that you're going to learn, the excitement and fun of learning, and so much more. And you can sign up there as well at synchronicityuniversity.com. So let's start with my friend Ursula Stockter. Ursula is amazing, I have to tell you. I absolutely love her, and she's brilliant. Ursula has been a Jungian analyst for many years. She previously taught a course on Jung and tarot. Now she's doing Jung and astrology, a topic that a lot of students have asked for. So this is very exciting. But there's something else that's exciting as well, and that is that Ursula will be hosting the very first course that Synchronicity University is going to offer in Spanish. So this is like a dream come true. This is so exciting to me. I always envisioned Synchronicity University expanding. And so I absolutely love that that's starting to happen. And Ursula is leading the way. So on the same day that you get the English class, you also get the Spanish class as well. So I hope that you will tell your Spanish speaking friends or relatives or loved ones or just people you meet randomly on the internet as well. If they speak Spanish, tell them about Ursula's class because I hope that this ends up being a positive endeavor sharing astrology in another language. Synchronicity University's mission to make quality astrology education accessible to the masses can only happen because of the students who find enthusiasm and support engaging in the classes, signing up for them, sharing these classes with other people that they know, commenting on the posts, all of that. It helps so much. So check out Ursula's class. You've got less than 2 weeks left to choose your tuition rate. Jung and astrology. I think so many people are going to love it. Lots of mythology is going to be shared here in English and in Spanish as well, for the very first time in Spanish as well, at synchronicityuniversity.com. Synchronicity University's mission to make quality astrology education accessible to the masses can only happen because of the students who find enthusiasm and support engaging in the classes, signing up for them, sharing these classes with other people that they know, commenting on the posts, all of that. It helps so much. So check out Ursula's class. You've got less than 2 weeks left to choose your tuition rate. Jung and astrology. I think so many people are going to love it. Lots of mythology is going to be shared here in English and in Spanish as well, for the very first time in Spanish as well, at synchronicityuniversity.com. Links are in the description below. Synchronicity University presents me. I am coming back to Synchronicity University after a year away. This May, I am teaching a foundational class called Back to Basics. We are going to be looking at how to read a birth chart. Now, this class is going to be based on the lessons that I present in my first book, Astrology Realized, but you don't even need to have the book in order to make the most of this class. It is here that I'm going to teach you about planets, signs, houses, how I learned astrology, how I go about teaching astrology, but also the way I think that you can start to approach reading a chart right away. This is great whether you're seasoned, whether you're a newbie, whether you're a pro. It's another perspective. It's my perspective on how it is to read a birth chart. Foundations can always be made stronger. A great class, whether you're starting out or you've been around for a while, and you get to hang out with me. That's always fun. You get to see another side of me, a little bit more chill, less edited, less relaxed, and that can be a lot of fun hanging out with you guys as well. So check out synchronicityuniversity.com. Remember, you've got less than 2 weeks left to choose your tuition rate, as low as just $5 a class. Links are in the description below. Synchronicity University presents an incredible group this May as part of the May 2023 speaker series. You've been meeting these people on my YouTube channel. I've been interviewing them, and you've seen how brilliant and insightful they are. I hope you've been enjoying those interviews. But yes, we've got this incredible speaker series coming up. Melissa Sanova is our big dog. She is back. She previously taught 2 courses at Synchronicity University. Now, this time she's coming back with a single class. It's basically everything you need to do before the reading begins. Everything from choosing your deck to setting up your reading station to the stones and all of that. She's going to be exploring that with you. Now, Melissa has been very kind and generous to offer her 2 previous courses at synchronicityuniversity.com for the choose your tuition rate. So yes, you can even sign up for Kitchen Table Magic or Kitchen Table Tarot, 2 classes based on her 2 books. And you'll get the downloads right away for those as well. So she is our big dog. Really excited to have her back at Synchronicity University. Franco Soul Body is a dear friend of mine. I've known him for almost 20 years now as part of the Toronto astrologer community. He's amazing, and he's going to be teaching on how it is and the different ways in which people experience and live and choose to live their charts. And he's going to be using the chart of Charles Manson as a reference point. I saw him give this talk before many years ago, some 15 years ago. And so now it's amazing that he's bringing even more information to this to help you to see how we make choices in terms of how we access our chart and what we do with it. And this is a wonderful example of what not to do, I think, and so much more taught in this fun, relaxed way that Franco teaches. We are going to have Helene Ceriso. Now, you know, I've been sharing clips of her on my social media because her class I know is going to be super popular. It is Venus in Leo retrograde that's coming up later this year. It is going to be June 20th that Venus will go into shadow. So that's not far away at all. July 23rd goes retrograde, goes direct in early September, leaves shadow in early October. So we have got quite the retrograde season ahead in the sign of Leo. How is this going to speak to the collective, but also you, depending on your sun or rising sign? Helene is going to look at all of that. So check out my talk with her. You'll learn a whole lot there. We had a lot of fun together, but also, of course, sign up for her class as well as part of the May 2023 speaker series. Natalie Levin, you guys saw her online with my interview with her. I gotta say, I know some people thought that she was high, but she really wasn't. She is just that positive. She is that incredible, so beautiful, so loving, and just amazing. She's an amazing astrologer as well. And she brings so much joy and heart and love to everything that she does. And I think it's so interesting that people would think that that correlates to and translates to not being sober. That's pretty wild to me because I kind of live that way as well. I got to say, Natalie and I are the same in that regard. So, this is a talk you want to check out. You'll have a lot of fun, but you'll also learn a lot about how to approach a reading with compassion. And we have Dustin Cormier. Now, Dustin is my fellow Canadian. He is a coming up superstar in astrology without a doubt. He's eloquent and intellectual and just so knowledgeable. And he's going to be looking at a particular technique called the friend enemy technique in Vedic astrology, Eastern astrology. So I think a lot of students are going to get a lot out of that as well. And so that is your May 2023 speaker series. Sign up using the links in the description below. Less than 2 weeks left to choose your tuition rate at synchronicityuniversity.com. And thank you. So I'm still in Rio. I don't want to leave, but I'm here now. So if you happen to be here, would love to meet you. I learned so much from every single person that I meet. Last week, it was raining because now it's autumn here in the southern hemisphere. There was a lot of rain, which was a lot of clouds, which means even though I'm right next to the beach, couldn't really take too much advantage of that. This week, though, there was a lot of sun and I was on the beach every day. I think you can tell looking at me, but oh my goodness, is it so healing? The sun is just something that gives us ourselves. And it's just such a powerful presence. So I'm grateful, I'm fortunate that I get to experience it, and especially in such a magical place like Rio as well. Thank you for your positive energy, your encouragement, and all of that. I'm so grateful for it. And have a great week. And again, thank you for watching. It'll be a great week. Enjoy. Welcome to the exciting rebirth of Superstar, featuring choose your membership rate as low as just $3 a month. At Superstar, you get expanded, exclusive video scopes each and every week, unlimited access to special horoscopes, class passes for Synchronicity University, consultations with me, and so much more. All of this in the Superstar space. I look forward to meeting you there.